Hello, everybody. My name is John Hill, Director of Sales here at IdealTraits. I'm with Kevin Mlynarek from IdealTraits. And today we're going to start a webinar series that we're going to get to know our agents and how they recruit and what formulas they use. And today we have Brandon Vanderbeck, and he's been nice enough to join us today. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, guys. How's everybody out there?
Good. How you doing, Brandon?
Good, good. Excited to be here. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, man, we appreciate you taking the time.
For sure. And, here's the thing, and we want to get to know you a little bit. This is really going to be in your words, Brandon. So why don't you tell us today a little bit about yourself, when you got started in the insurance business?
I started a couple of years ago, 2013. I came from not an insurance background. I came from a banking background. So I worked at Chase for about 5-6 years, was pretty successful there. My position over there was a private client banker. It seems like forever ago. But it was cool, relationship driven, and we'd focus on more high net worth clients. So it was relationship type of business just like this is, and I thought it was a perfect segue into to come and have an entrepreneurial spirit and open up an Allstate agency.
Great, great. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your agency, your staff size, your book size, any awards that you've won?
Sure. So 2013, I came in October. So it was the end of the year. There really wasn't a lot of time to make up for any losses throughout that year. But 2014, we hit the ground running. We hit honoring that year. And to follow up with that, we hit Inner Circle. And last year we hit Inner Circle again. This year we're following up to hit another year of Inner Circle. So we just try and set the bar high, and the whole team keeps the high expectations, and we try to hit the numbers that Allstate sets for us.
I see that smile. That's for a great reason. You should have a big smile. To hit Inner Circle 3 years in a row is phenomenal.
Congratulations.
You're top 1% in the company. Great job. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's challenging, but it's exciting, and I'm excited to be here every day. So it's a great opportunity.
And without, without great staff, like you just cannot hit Inner Circle. You have to have great staff, which is kind of what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So the book that I actually purchased a book. So the book that I came into had, I looked at the numbers prior to talking to you guys, and it's about 4,800 policies, 6,700 items. The breakdown of what I have is 3 service people, 3 sales people, 2 telemarketers, and one is kind of like a administration part-time. He helps with the paperwork, making sure things are faxed down, scanned, which is roughly around like 10 people. The challenges are just trying to maintain a book that's, large clientele, write business, grow and hire and do all of these other things. So it's important to have the right people in the right places. And that's kind of, I think, what sets the tone for success.
Yeah. Hey, what do you like most about being an Allstate agent?
Oh, there's, helping, being around, well, just coming into the office every day, and it's almost like you're coming in and you get to hang out with people that you want to be with. So it's like coming in and hanging out with family, and part of it is family. A lot of the, it's more recommendations from current staff, or, but it's a close group. So it's exciting to be here. Although some days can be stressful, it's not that bad because of the team that's here.
Yeah.
So it makes the day go by quick. I think it's coming into work, working with people that I like and I care about, and then also the clientele, they're great too. So they get a little rough when there's increases, but besides that, it's a good time.
That's awesome. That's a great testimony to you and your team that you sounds like you truly enjoy working together.
Absolutely. No, they set the goals, and everybody just kind of pulls together, and we'll try to hit them. Like, just for instance, yesterday, one of the girls, we have different growth grids and bonus grids. So on one of the girls on the sales team, she was 1 item shy, and she wound up pulling out strong and had 10 items yesterday. So she was worried about her one and knocked the cover off the ball and hit 10.
That's awesome.
So, Brandon, I want to ask you a question. You talked about your staff, and this is really what Kevin and I talk a lot about with a lot of agents is, when do you know when to add staff? I mean, do you have a magic formula that you use? I mean, I know a lot of our agents ask us, like, when should I add? Or Do I need to add now or do I need to add later? What's your formula or strategy there?
My strategy might be a little bit different than most. I am always trying to hire somebody. So there's not a specific formula. I just kind of go by the tone of what the staff that we have, where they are. If they're able to, if they're up and running and they're independently working and they're able to teach somebody else, I know that we could take on more people. But there's never a point in time where I stop hiring. I'll hire. And if we have no desks, I'll push the desks together and we'll buy more desks and make space, because you never know. I don't want to miss out on opportunity with maybe the Michael Jordan of sales or service, and I want to get them in the door. If they want to be here and they want to be part of the team, I want them here.
That's such a great answer. And although it seems maybe very simple to you and me that you always need to be prepared and always be hiring, a lot of agents they don't they haven't thought about that maybe before. And just knowing that, if you know how many policies you have, you know how many you're going to lose, you know how many you need to grow, and you know what your growth goals are and your expectations, and that whenever there's a great salesperson that comes knocking on the door, you're going to have your door open for them. And so I call it passively hiring. And then sometimes it's very actively, when you need somebody. But if you passively hire all the time, you're never really in a desperation situation.
Right. No, I'd have to agree. We'll always, if somebody wants to be here, like we'll have the ads up throughout the year. Part of the programs that we use with IdealTraits and Ideal Recruit, it makes it a lot easier for me, because in the past, before I jumped on board and before I met John and both you guys, really, I was spending, because I'd still hire all year round, regardless of if we needed it or not. I would probably take about 2 hours out of my 2 hours out of the morning, twice a week. And one of the girls, which was my best salesman, she was doing 2 hours once a week, following up with leads or resumes that I'd be pulling offline, and I'd just be searching for people. So when I was doing the math on how much time am I investing in, I'm taking 2 hours or 8 hours a month out of my day, and 8 hours a month. So one full working day out of my best salesperson and out of my day to recruit, when I could just kind of streamline it and have a great tested system that works, help me out with it. So it's definitely helped me streamline the process and get some great recruits in here.
Well, thank you. I always love hearing that. That's very nice to hear. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. So let's get into, I know you're running ads right now, Brandon. Do you have anything you like to do before you run an ad? Is there any strategies you like to employ before you put the ad out there on, all the job boards that you utilize?
There's no specific strategy. I kind of leave it to the professionals. I let you guys kind of help me out with that, because you do it every day and you're best at it. So I know my strong point is sales, and I'm better to be on the phone selling and working with the team. And you guys are really great at helping me find talent and filter through it. Where in the past I got caught, I did an Indeed ad, and Indeed's a great company to help you get resumes and qualified candidates. But I was so overwhelmed because I had like 300 emails in my inbox. So that 2 hours a week went to like 8 hours a week. And that's when I almost like just threw my hands up. So it's a lot easier for me to talk to maybe a handful of cherry pick candidates after you guys comb through them. So it's been very helpful.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. I got a great question. This is one of my agents asked me this. It's like, tell me, John, when do you think it takes, or how long does it take from when I have the little idea of hiring somebody and then until they producing? Can you tell me what that looks like for your agency, Brandon? That when you have the idea versus when they actually start writing you those items and that's where they're moving forward?
It's everybody's different, and everybody's going to learn differently, and they're going to adapt a little bit differently. So in a perfect world, I'd like them to come in day one and write like 10 policies. It's not realistic though.
Right.
Yeah. I'm looking for that guy. So actively throughout the year, if we get the right one in, it would be great. But for servicing, I would say to get them fully up and running, it probably would take me about 3 months where I'm really comfortable and confident with them. a lot of when a service person's going to come in the door, they're helping with the overflow and some of the more basic tasks from the service team that's already there. So if they can help with learning how to process endorsements or making some type of my work item calls or just following up on birthday calls, anything like that, that's helpful, where it's going to be time consuming, even if it's sitting on sitting on the phone with underwriting. I can have a new person do that, tell them what to ask, and rather than have one of my seasoned veterans taking time out of their day to do that. On a sales side, it could take anywhere from like a month, 1 to 3 months, depending on the individual. Some people are a little bit slower, so we'll just try to coach to that. And but once they're in the door, I want to work with them and bring out the best that I can out of them. So it will take a little bit longer sometimes, but 1 to 3 months, I'd say.
Hey, Brandon, and then maybe speak to a moment about segmentation within your agency. Are you completely segmented, and to what degree? Is it sales only do sales and service only service? And maybe speak about that a little bit.
Sure. I used to struggle with the idea of segregating tasks because I'm like, you should be able to do everything. And I was at a meeting, and the example that they gave, so this was a meeting, an Allstate meeting, and they gave us an example. He said, Vince, which is one of the upper management, he said, have you ever seen the guy on the street corner that has like the harmonica and then the guitar and the cymbals, and he's like doing it all at once? And he goes, that's what your agency will look like if you try to let everybody do one task, because you need segregation. And I never fully understood it, but that's kind of when like the light bulb went off. I said, oh, it makes so much more sense. So it's a lot easier to train if there's a service department and then there's a sales department. I made that change about 2 years ago, and it's drastically helped out performance. And even if they're doing service, it doesn't mean that they can't ask for recommendations or referrals or cross-selling the items. So it's not just picking up the phone and being like an answering machine. They are proactively looking at the policies, talking about discounts, talking about what the other policies are outside, and then they'll turn that over to the sales team to wrap everything up. But it's helped a lot by segregating the two positions.
Yeah, if the phone's ringing and we're answering them, at some point we all have to be salespeople. We may not push it all the way to the degree in our service team, but we get that. And same thing in my agency too. Just flip it right over to a salesperson to kind of wrap it up. But you gotta be able to sell if you're going to work in the agency.
Yeah, they can't be afraid of the phones. They have to be able to talk to people, and it's important that their personality. So everybody that's here, I'd like to think is a great personality, and I'm friends with everybody here. So I like that to come across on the phones, where when people are calling in, they feel like they're calling a friendly environment. And I can't tell you how many times 4th of July will come up, like, you guys should come to the barbecue, or so-and-so's birthday party's here. So that's awesome when people call up and will invite us to like their family functions. Yeah. It's interesting, and it's, it's a big compliment, I guess, to the team.
Brandon, you get those invitations. I don't think Kevin gets a whole lot of those invitations.
well, Kevin, next time, 4th of July, you can come to my house. I cook them in
to my house. All right, all right, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Obviously, you use Ideal Traits to attract your candidates, Brandon. Is there anything else or any other avenues you do or use to attract more candidates to look at, to obviously assess?
Because we're always hiring, I just kind of stick to 2 methods. One is Ideal Traits. It'll help me identify the person's key traits within the person's personality, so I can put them in the right position. And then the other thing, I like to think my grandfather used to always say, birds of a feather flock together. So I try to ask the guys that are here, hey, do you have any, know anybody that might be interested, and are they looking? So that's also been very helpful for us too.
Do you have an incentive program potentially there, where if somebody gives a lead and you hire that lead, you give them $250 or something along those lines? Absolutely.
I not only will incentivize the team, so if we hire a service person or if we hire a salesperson, because I'm asking them to take time out of their day to help get the new person up and running, I'll incentivize the service team and say, okay, after 1 month, if they're hitting all of these goals, I'm going to give you an incentive. And then for the person that recommended them in, they have to stay for 6 months, and then I would compensate them. I do give them a referral.
Good.
That's awesome.
Finder's fee, I guess.
So now they have a buddy for at least 6 months, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. You can make it. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and say, where did you get your last hire? Where did you find them from? Can you remember?
I can. Our last hire was a girl. Her name is Tiana. She's awesome. She's actually a referral from one of my friends. We were just talking one night, and I forget what we were talking about, and I think we were mentioning that he was going out, and I said, hey, just out of passing, do you know anybody that might be looking? We're looking to expand a little bit more. And he said, yeah, there's this girl, Tiana, I know. She's really great. She's coming out of the service industry, so working in a restaurant. And she's looking to get into more of an office environment. I personally love to hire people that don't have insurance experience. I really like to have somebody here that wants to be a team player and that has a great personality, with good work ethic. Yeah. Those are the three, I think, key points for me. And if they have those three things, I'd take a chance with them.
Yeah. Sure. Let me ask you this. On that note, have you hired somebody with an insurance background? Have you had a bad experience? Just, what is it for you on that?
It's, yes and no. I set high expectations for myself, and the rest of the team sets high expectations for them as well. So if the bar is we have to hit 100 cars for the month, they're going to hit 100 cars, and they're not going to leave. Yeah. They're not going to punch the clock and leave 15 minutes early. They're going to stay until we hit our goals. So sometimes if you hire somebody that might have insurance experience, they're not used to being on that type of team. So I like to tell the staff, I say, guys, we're like the Olympic team. We want to hire Olympians to work with us. We don't want to hire the JV team to come with us.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to steal that. I like that. I like that. That's
awesome.
Good.
That's so true, though, because it sets the bar. And if you got all Olympians on your team, then everyone else will be like, man, I guess that's the standard here.
The practices are, can you imagine? They're incredible.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another one there. I know that you use the assessment, of course. Can you tell me in your words, why do you think the assessment's important?
It's huge. Before I use the assessment, and I'm like, I'm a good judge of character. I don't need that stuff. I'd rather spend the money and go get a dinner or something. It helps out a lot because there's some people that have certain types of traits, and you can't really trick the test. It's a personality test. So it's not like a pass-fail. It's hard to identify some of those key motivators for people and what's going to drive somebody. So I feel like by having that test, it's almost like taking an open book test. So you kind of know, okay, for me, I'm not going to be really good with processing paperwork. I'm more geared towards sales. So for me, compliance and sales type of stuff, compliance and paperwork, I don't like it so much. So I know what my weak points are, and I try to hire people that like to do that so I don't have to, and I can focus on what my strengths are. So before I started using it, it was a little bit challenging to find the right people for the right positions. And then after using the test, it helps me a little bit more with some of the interview questions and just placing them in the right position.
Awesome. Do you have any maybe any examples of going against the assessment and maybe what happened?
How did it work?
I can tell by your face, but go ahead, tell us a story.
So there was a girl that we interviewed about 3 years ago, and she was with us for a long time. She moved, and she's not here anymore. But in the interview process, she came back as a networker, and I know networkers aren't always the best, but I'm like, let me see what type of personality she has. So one of the questions I like to ask her, what are your goals for the next couple of years? And she goes, well, I'd really like to get a boyfriend in the next couple of years. So I think that's more of a personal goal of mine. And I was dying laughing because I don't know who says that in a job interview.
Right.
So she brought a great personality to the office, which was really cool. And networkers are good for I get exactly what it is, networking. So we hired her as a telemarketer, and she did phenomenal. But to pass the test, she struggled, which also the IdealTraits test kind of says she would have a hard time with something like that. So we kept her in that role and just came up with incentives for her to hit certain grids and everything. And she was here for a few years.
I think that is a good answer there. And I want to transition right into some of the interview questions that you use. You kind of already talked about that. What's some of your favorite interview questions, Brandon, that you like to use?
I got to tell you the truth. As far as interviewing, I like to leave a lot of that, I get farming of candidates up to Ideal Recruit and IdealTraits. So if we get 300 applicants, you guys are really getting the first big wave of them and cherry picking whatever's good out of there. The next step in our process would really be, after you guys pass it over to us, we put them through either 1 or 2 phone interviews, depending on how, or phone interviews, depending on how strong they are on the phone. And then after that, we'll invite them into the office twice. So pretty much by the time I get to the person, or before the person gets to me, everybody on the team already likes them. So I'll just talk to them about their personality. A lot of questions that I'll ask are about their hobbies, about maybe about their work ethic, some of their goals that they'd like to accomplish in the next couple of years. And it's just really learning about, I want to know what type of personality and work ethic that they have. I want to make sure that they're not going to leave the rest of the team high and dry at 6 o'clock if we need, one more auto to process to hit our monthly number. So the interview questions that I'll ask is more just personality driven and finding out if they're going to be a good team player and if they're coachable.
That's a really key word, being coachable, right? That's important because they don't have any insurance background, and you've got a proven system, and now it's finding the right fit that can go along with it. And along with that is, it sounds like you ask a lot of questions, personality, to make sure like they're competitive and that they're a go-getter and that they're not going to give up and that they will work to the end. And so those are great questions you have there.
So I got another one for you. What do you hope to happen in that interview? And then ultimately, in a perfect world, how does the interview end?
In the interview, it's really important for me that there's really good team chemistry. So I pretty much once the candidate comes in, if they're being hired for sales or for service, I'll let them interview with the sales team and the service team before I speak to them. It's important to me that, and they'll ask them kind of like the standardized questions, and we'll go over the responses and just make sure that they had, the right type of responses. If they like them and they think that they're going to be a good fit, because they're going to be working with them throughout the entire day, and they're going to be helping them get up and running. So I want them to like each other and have good office chemistry. And then I'll kind of take them after that. But it's the process. I think the process is I don't know if I hit on all of your points there.
Well, I'm just saying, how do you like to end? How does the interview end? How does a perfect interview end? Like, do they ask you for the position? Do they, do a handstand? Whatever. I mean, whatever it is that really makes you happy. Like, you this guy or gal is great.
Gotcha.
You give them an offer right then.
If the rest of the team likes them and then I get a hold of them, if the rest of the team likes them and then they come in and they sit with me, I'll tell them a little bit about the position. I don't like to sugarcoat anything. I want to tell them that it's hard work. They're going to work hard. My expectations are high. The rest of the team is going to have high expectations for them. So, don't show up late. Don't come up with nonsense excuses of why you can't come into work. Because if they don't show up, they're going to leave their teammates high and dry. So I try not to sugarcoat anything. As long as they're okay with the process. Again, they might not be so upfront with me face to face. So it's very rare that I'll ever offer somebody a position right on the spot. I'll usually always say, I think you're a great candidate. I'd like to hire you, but I want you to go home and call me by noon tomorrow after you talk to your loved ones and some people that might help you make decisions. If it's your mom, if it's your husband, your boy, whatever, girlfriend, talk to them, see if you guys think it's a good fit for your lifestyle, and if you think that you'd be a good fit here, because it takes a lot of time and effort to get somebody up and running. So I don't want to just sell the position and have them come in and then waste my time or my staff's time. But I let them think about it. As long as they follow back up and call me the next day, usually I send them an offer letter. But I don't talk about, they know that it's going to, whatever it is, if it's going to be salary or salary versus commission, they know that it's that type of position. We don't talk about numbers in that interview.
That's awesome.
That's great. I love
great.
that. I'm going to steal that, B. That's really good.
No, it's sometimes it's tough, but it sounds like what I'm hearing from you is you're not really selling them on it. Like, you need them to go home and think about it, which I think is a great point. And then let me ask you a question. What if they don't call you back by noon the next day? But you really like them? It's one that you love. So what do you do?
I would follow up by email and say, hey, is everything okay? But rarely ever will I do that. They'd have to really have knocked the cover off the ball. And then I'd follow up to make sure they didn't get into a call. Because I'd like to think if they didn't call me back,
right.
Something happened.
Right.
There was some type of an extreme situation that they didn't call me back.
Right.
I feel like I'm a cool guy. Everybody would want to work with me and work with everybody here. So I don't know why they didn't call by noon.
There's got to be some tragedy, right?
What?
There might be a tragedy, and that's why I had to follow up. Yeah.
All right, I want to go on the flip side of that. Obviously, we're talking about very positive things. When do you know maybe that after 90 days or 50, 60, 80 days, something like that, when you have to let somebody go or when you need to terminate somebody?
Usually we do a 30-day probation. By the time that they come in the door, it's very rare that the person, for whatever reason wouldn't work out, because they went through such an extreme process just to come on board. They went through, maybe one into two. They filled out an application. They filled out an ideal recruit test, which probably took them a half hour to 40 minutes. Then they spoke to somebody on the phone. Then they spoke to 2 people on the phone from my agency and went through 3 face-to-face interviews. So by that time, it's like the person wants to be here and is going to put their best foot forward and try. So after 30 days, I should be able to tell if they're showing up late, if they're playing on their cell phone all day, then we would probably let them go. But it doesn't happen often. And plus keep in mind, a lot of the people that we'll bring in, or majority of them, if they're a referral, somebody vouched for them. So they're not going to want to come in and do the wrong thing.
Yeah, great. That's really good. I mean, it's a very rigorous process that you put them through. But, we have to, as agencies, we can't just hire quickly and be slow to fire and hire quick. We can't do that. Slow to hire, quick to fire. So you're right on track, and that's why you're doing so well. Nice job with that.
And this last question here, we got only a couple more. We really appreciate your time here, Brandon, is what kind of training do you incorporate? I know you talked a little bit about that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
The training process is we do a lot of shadowing, which is huge, a lot of role playing, and then the other things that I like to take advantage of, because it's hard for me to draw up all the training videos and processes on my own. So I like to leverage other technologies and other proven systems. So I use a lot of what Allstate has out there. I'll assign the modules from their education platform. This way, it'll take about an hour or 2 throughout the day. I like to also assign a lot of the ASA processes and videos. Those things help out a lot. Because coming from me or somebody in the office versus coming from somebody else, sometimes it's just a different voice, a different perspective that puts these guys in the right direction. And then it's just going over, like, we have the recorded phone calls, or we'll try to have something that comes up throughout the day. So if there's an objection, so for sales, for instance, we'll say, write down some of these objections that you had a hard time with, and I'll help you overcome them later on, because the rebuttals are typically going to be the same. It's just coming from a different person, but all the excuses are the same from the prospects. And a lot of people will call in with the same type of questions: rate increases, how do you get around it? So those are the things that we'll practice with. So I leverage the other technologies out there. So this way it buys extra time for me, and the other processes are proven. So it's really, I guess, kind of excelled my production here, and got me to another level faster. or a better level fast or high level.
That's great. And we've met and quite a few times. You've been out to the agency there, and I just love the passion that you have, and just knowing that it's never good enough. Like, you're just constantly striving to absolutely be the best, and that is exactly why you're so great as an Allstate agent. So you do a phenomenal job, and keep up the great work. And as we all recognize, like, it is the team. I mean, without the team, like, we can't do it ourselves. We need the team behind us. And you guys sound like you have such an awesome environment, a culture, and a chemistry that is working great for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is why when we start coming up with this idea, you were one of my first calls, Brandon, and you're like, yeah, John, I'll do a favor for you. I'm like, I appreciate that. Obviously, getting on the call today. We got only a couple more questions, but again, thank you so much for your time. The last question I have for you is, are there any tips, any other tips or strategies you like to employ or use when it comes to recruiting, or did we basically cover everything that you do?
My tip or advice would be, because this is kind of how I've excelled faster, was just get the right coach, have somebody that's going to coach you appropriately, have your best interest at heart, and maybe he's done it before or helped other people get to the level that you want to be at. That's huge. And surround yourself with people that you'd like to be like, or that you admire, and that would be a good representation of you. So if I was going to take on, the reason why I use a lot of the companies or partner up with a lot of these other carriers like IdealTraits and ASA and a couple other ones out there, is we have the same type of beliefs and views, and that's what I think makes the difference, is having the right coach, being around the right team, and surrounding yourself with good people, and the rest will take care of itself.
That's awesome.
Great strategies.
And that just goes to show, kind of like you want your team to be coachable, but that tells me, like, you want to be coached too. Like, you're always willing to hear if there's a better way of doing it. So that's awesome.
Always trying to learn to make it more efficient, or something that's going to tweak what I'm doing to get more production or more efficiency out of there. With so many great agents out there that have been doing it longer than I have, I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to be around them and maybe work alongside them and get a couple tips here and there.
Well, you're an inspiration to many, Brandon. I promise you that. Last question, and any great recruiting stories that you'd like to share? Any other fun? You shared one funny one, but just out of curiosity, if you got any other funny one. Names.
Yeah, no names, but any of your best stories that you have in the recruiting trail. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
There's a lot of times where I'll go out there. Personally, I'll go out there when I'm talking to people, if they seem like they're qualified or not qualified. So if I'm at Best Buy, Dunkin' Donuts, wherever, and I'll try to offer them. So I've got caught in a couple awkward situations where the guy's doing really well and the manager's standing over their shoulder, and I'm trying to position it where, like, hey, you could call me up one day and I'm down here. Do you want to do something differently? So just like myself, I've been it's been a little bit awkward in those situations when I was trying to actively recruit. But we're always looking for new talent, no matter where we are. If there's somebody that'll give me a wow factor, I try to work with them, but it doesn't always pan out where they'll call me back or come in. But I'll put it out there.
That's awesome.
It's great.
That's cool. But it's just like you're always recruiting. I mean, that's what it lends to believe, is that you're just constantly, it's always on your mind, always recruiting. So that's great. Boy, I mean, what an awesome interview. What a great opportunity we had to share with you today.
Thank you so much.
Help our clients and other agents out there. And I know that's what you're about. And just really appreciate the time and the great insight and the great ideas that you've shared with us today.
Fantastic. Yeah, great job, B.
Thanks. I appreciate it. My pleasure. I'm glad I could help any way I can.
All right. Well, thanks. Well, you have a great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Perfect. Take care, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. We'll see you.
Bye.